Hey, what's up, friends? Thank you for joining me for Brush Hour. I'm glad you're all here. So this is a show we do once every 2 weeks where we talk about brushes in Photoshop and Fresco. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kyle T. Webster, and I am a brush-obsessed person. I created over 1,900 brushes for the Adobe Photoshop and Fresco ecosystem. And I love to talk about all things brush related, how to create brushes, how to use these brushes for the best results, and then all the ins and outs of the brush settings, panels, and so on. So on today's show, we're going to follow up from the last time where we were talking about emulating graphite pencils and so on in Photoshop. And today I'm actually going to do a drawing. Now in Brush Hour, from time to time, I will do that. I will do some kind of illustration and demonstrate what the brushes can really do. And today I thought I'd just draw a character using some pencils in Photoshop. And first, I want to welcome everybody that is joining us over on Behance and say hello to some of them. Remember, if you're watching over on YouTube or on Twitter, I'm following the chat over on behance.net/Adobe Live or be.net/Adobe Live. That is where the live chat is happening, where I'm following it. If you have questions for me or anything you want to ask during the show, you can ask them over there, okay? Now, it's perfectly fine to just follow along on Twitter or on YouTube as well. You'll still get the same info, but I won't see your comments, okay? What's up, Cody? Hey, Cody and I are going to do a show together soon, right, Cody? Andreas is here. Hello, nice to see you. And Christelle, bonjour, Christelle, and Laura, and I see Jack. What's up, Jack? And who else do we have here? Clarissa, Wacom, nice to see you as well, and Sean. Oh my gosh, lots of folks. Steve joining us. People just piling into the chat here. If you have any questions, remember folks, just go ahead and ask and I'll check and I'll answer them for you. All right, let's jump over now to Photoshop because we're going to do some drawing. Last time we talked about a bunch of different pencils and graphite emulation tools that you can have at your disposal in Photoshop via all of the brushes that are available to you with your Creative Cloud subscription, and these are available right here. You open up your brushes panel, you come to the top right corner, and voila, you tap on this little hamburger menu, little menu in the top right corner. We call those hamburger menus. Don't ask me why. They don't come with fries. Come on down here to get more brushes, and that's going to launch your browser. You just sign in with your Adobe credentials and boom, you get access to all these brushes, okay? If you are a Fresco user, you would just go down to the bottom of your brushes panel and you'll see a little plus sign. And from there, you can quote unquote discover new brushes, and that will take you to the same page where you can follow along with libraries of the same brushes and they'll automatically get installed and loaded into Fresco and you can draw with the same tools. So last time we talked about various pencils, of which there are many in the Megapack drawing box. We also talked about different graphite shading tools and things like that, and some smudgy tools as well. Today I'll use this one specific pencil here called the Tilty Pencil Variant. Now this brush is actually a part of the very recently released, for everybody in the world, Winter 2022 brush set. So every quarter I release a new brush set for everybody to use, and there's usually about anywhere between 15 to 30 different brushes in there depending on what I decide to create. And in this Winter 2022 brush set, there are a bunch of cool brushes where you can make trees and do all kinds of cool like retro sort of stuff. You know, I was really inspired by some mid-century stuff, you know. But I also snuck in a few pencils right here, 1, 2, and 3, that were inspired by a project that I did with Warner Brothers Animation for their upcoming Christmas Batman cartoon called Merry Little Batman. That's coming out this coming Christmas. And I created some custom pencils for them for the production. And I thought, well, geez, I really like these pencils. And I think I should tweak them a little bit and then release them for everyone. And so here they are. Now, this Tilty pencil variant is the one that I want to draw mostly with today. What I like about this pencil is that you can get these nice fine lines. Okay, you can go really faint with pressure, right? Or you can make them darker if you use more pressure. And you can also tilt your stylus by moving it away from being perpendicular to the drawing surface and more close to parallel, as if you're shading with the side of the lead of or graphite of a pencil. And you can get these nice fat shady bits too. See that? Down to a little smaller, a little fatter. Oh, look at that. Lovely. So that to me is exciting, and that's what I want to draw with today. The other thing we talked about quickly, I want to mention up top, is that you can adjust all these pencils to do what you want. If you have a heavier hand when you draw, maybe you bear down a lot and everything you draw starts to look like this. You say, everything's too dark. Well, don't forget that you can adjust the flow of brushes, okay? And this will slow down the speed at which the pigment, whatever it happens to be, whether it's graphite or paint or charcoal or pastel, whatever it is that the brush is drawing with or painting with, it's going to slow down how much of that is depositing itself onto the paper, so to speak, and you can just slow that down. So if I knock this down to say 20% and I use that same pressure, right away I'm getting lighter strokes. Why is that? Well, it's not coming out as fast. This means I'd be able to shade a lot lighter and more slowly build up to a black. Okay, so adjust those flow values, okay, for yourself to make things easier. And also don't forget, if you're drawing in fresco or with a Wacom tablet in Photoshop on a desktop or laptop or whatever, you can adjust the way it feels to draw with the pressure curve, okay? The pressure settings and the pressure curve. Now, if you're on a machine like this, I'm working right now on a MacBook. This would be the same for a Windows machine or whatever. Wacom has a settings panel, and you can control your settings there, including pressure and whatnot. And this is really important. If you want to draw comfortably in a digital environment, you need to be able to adjust these things. So let's take a look at this, for example. All right, here we have the Wacom Desktop Center, and if I have my Cintiq right here and I say I want to adjust pen settings, by tapping on that, it's going to open up this little window here with these different options. So here I have the feel of the pen tip, and I can test to see how that feels by pressing right here. And if I'm a person who happens to have a really heavy hand, I would want to set that more towards firm, so that it requires more pressure to get to the point where I'm going to be applying like a darker mark or a fully opaque line. Okay, so you could adjust these things, and if you really want to get fancy, you customize by opening up this pressure curve setting right here and adjusting the pressure curves. You can do both of these things in Fresco as well. Scroll down to where your brush settings are, and you'll see at the bottom of the brush settings the option to adjust pen pressure, and you can do it there as well, okay? So, importante, you have to be able to draw comfortably when you're drawing digitally, right? Alrighty, so let's see, make sure we don't have any questions here before I move along. Cody, thank you so much for including the instructions for getting the brushes, for those who might have missed it. Now let's get going. So here's this tilty pencil variant, and I want to draw this character. I'm going to show you my process, probably very similar to a lot of other folks, but I'm thinking about like, this is going to be a figure kind of standing here, looking up at us, and sort of a top-down kind of a pose. So we're going to use a lot of like extreme foreshortening here. That's what we're going to do. Foreshortening. Okay. There we go. So the head's going to be bigger than everything else, right? And I'm gonna tilt that head so this will be like my center line here for that head, okay? A little tilted, bit of a 3/4 view. Put a little ear right there so I know where that's going to be, more or less. Okay, so this is going to be our figure. I'd actually maybe don't want to get that specific quite yet, but just a little line to indicate what's going to happen there. All right. So those of you who've done my masterclass stuff will know that I'm a big fan of these thirds, this idea of the thirds of the face, that whole idea, you know, it's Andrew Loomis gets credit for that, but I'm sure it's been around longer than that. The brow ridge here, we got our eye line here, but 1/3 for the hairline down to the brow ridge, then down to the bottom of the nose, and then down to the jaw right here. So that's where that's gonna wind up. All right, so there's our figure. I'm gonna tilt these shoulders so that one is lower than the other. Have one here and then one up here. And this person's gonna have one arm behind their back. Okay. And then the other arm here, coming out, and then coming towards us with a little, depending on how you read it, V for victory, or it's a peace symbol there. Okay. All right, so this is the basics here. I'm gonna have one eye right there, one eye right there. And then here is our nose. See the underside of that nose, right? Here's the line of the mouth. Boom. And eyebrows. And there you go. Now, you see how natural this is to draw with a tool like this. This feels like I'm drawing with pencil. It's no different. And this is what's important with these digital tools. If you're going to emulate natural media in a digital environment, you don't want the tools to fight you. You don't want to be in a situation where you're having to change a lot about how you work to make the tools do what you need them to do. And so this is an important part about designing and developing these tools and also working with these tools, is that they don't get in the way of you making the work that you want to make. And this is very, very big deal to me. And it was always one of the things that drove me to make brushes in the first place, was just the frustration I would have sometimes with wanting very much to be efficient and work digitally, because I worked as an editorial and advertising illustrator for so long. And so deadlines were always so important, and changes were always inevitable. So working with traditional media was problematic because to make changes was such a big pain. And 9 times out of 10, you have to make those changes digitally anyway. So I wanted to move the whole process to digital, so that I could skip a lot of steps and make my life easy, work with layers and all those other great things, right? But to work with the tools and make them feel natural, coming from, art school and working with charcoal and paint and whatnot, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't having to relearn everything. And so I got really excited when I opened up that brushes panel and learned that you could change all the settings, right? And all that. That just really got me pumped. And I got really into all the nitty-gritty, see how that could be done. And just never stopped, never looked back. I was just kind of obsessed with making those tools, just like I still am. Still make these tools, and every time I think I'm gonna make some new brushes, a lot of times I sit down and I think I'm not gonna have any new ideas. I'm out of ideas. But then suddenly I'll make a little mark, or I'll look at a little something, a different piece of art maybe, and I'll just say, oh, wait a minute, I have an idea. And then it's off to the races. So Chuck Close, I believe, said something about some of us look for inspiration, some of us just get to work. I like that saying, because I think a lot of the times the way I actually get anything done is I just start drawing, start making marks, start making a mess on the canvas, and eventually something's going to come out of that, It'll get there. Eventually it'll get there. All right. So let's zoom in so you can see the texture here from this pencil. You can see all that nice paper texture coming through. And the way that quality of the line is, it's really just like a pencil. You know, what you get is you get a little bit of that sort of irregular, kind of gritty quality to the line. It's not like extra smooth, right? It's just really nice to work this way. Not going to go too crazy with that hand just yet, but I do want to sort of understand the way it's sort of built. So that I can make it look better later, but not have any issues with the underlying sort of structure of it, you know? Oh, hands. Hands, hands, hands. Go ahead and do this with your own hand. I always love to just do something and say, what am I doing? Where's my hand touching? Like I can feel that like there's a knuckle right there and see that with my own hand. That's where that's happening, right? And the other one is sort of down here. There's that curved sort of action happening like up and over like this. You know, and I really want to get that right when I draw. And I think I mean, this is going to be stylized to some extent, right? I'm not trying to go for like hyper realism or anything, but I do want it to look correct anatomy-wise for the most part, right? That's important. All right, so there we have sort of the basic idea. We have this figure. Now, a thing that I want to do is decide on what to do with the style of the clothing and how to make that interesting, and all these other things. And also I want to bring in some of these other tools we talked about last week, like these graphite shading tools and smudging and all these other things to make this work. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to decide on a center line here for this and understand this is like a kind of a cool sweatshirt kind of thing or a coat or whatever. And then I want to build on top of that and make it like have some better shapes, more interesting shapes. So one thing I could do is maybe I could say, all right, so this, maybe there's another layer here that wraps around from the outside. So we have this part coming up here, which is another collar that wraps around the neck here. And that's maybe open. And then around that, we're gonna have like this big, maybe hoodie, kind of puffy hood thing or something. And that's gonna come around here. It's gonna have these two flaps maybe. And it's going to open out this way. And then here, we're going to have the bulk of the arm just kind of like overlap that. And then have a bunch of like these creases, wrinkles, whatever you want to call them, right? Folds. like that, and we have the other part of that. So there's going to be a little connection right there, maybe. And that's going to squeeze back that way. And then I can erase away this so I know where that's going. Important thing when you're drawing with pencils in Photoshop is your eraser should work like, you know, a rubber eraser, or what you would use normally when you're working with pencil. So you have to select the right eraser, and that's part of the deal. You can't just work with a great brush but then have the wrong eraser. So my recommendation is for the eraser, if I go here and select my eraser, you'll find it down here in the Mega Pack, or up here. Where's my Mega Pack? Here we go. This is the eraser gradual right here. Okay, that's the one I'm using right now. Natural edge would be a good one for that. Kneaded would probably be a decent one for that as well. So you have some good options in the Mega Pack drawing box for erasers. All right, let's see. Any questions so far? Yeah, Fresco's totally free. For those who don't know, it's an amazing app. It's free. What else can you say? Right? All right. So I think that's kind of an interesting sort of a thing going on here. The design of this. Maybe this actually, I want to have this wrap around the neck. Like this. That other layer underneath. And then why don't we get funky and we're going to do stuff like this. I'll just erase away a little bit right here. And we add a pocket, you know? Like a flap right there. And then we just throw that right there and we say, okay, cool. So now we understand that there's a little, little pocket there. And now for this item of clothing underneath, right here, put a little fold right there. Give it some personality. And then we give it a cuff. Cuff's the wrong word, but like a little elastic down there. And then we get to the legs. So a cool contrast might be having, just do the anatomy here. Make a little circle for the knee, that's easy peasy. Remember, this is foreshortened, so I'm just taking everything and kind of stacking things on top of one another, right? Stack, stack, making everything smaller than it really would be. And there's that shape, okay? And I'm gonna draw over these shapes. This leg coming forward a bit more, so different angle. Okay, stack. Stacking everything again. And then when I get down here, Just pop that foot out. I learned everything I know about feet from Jack Davis. Look up Jack Davis if you don't know Jack Davis. Legendary Mad Magazine artist, but did illustrations for like everything. So like you got this puffy, wintry sort of warm stuff up top. You could do something like a little pair of short shorts, you know, down here. That could be kind of fun. Give some shorts. And then under those shorts, you could have like some leggings that stop right under the knee. Right, and then you go down. And then here, you could do something funky like have some fat boots. Right, these could be kind of puffy boots right there. I'm gonna have fun with this stuff and experiment. Nothing is, you know, you don't have to stick with any of these decisions. All these decisions are, of course, reversible, changeable, whatever. Doesn't matter. Right? But I just think that's kind of fun. So let's move that ear up just a little because I know that the head is tilted up, but I don't want it to be, I don't want the ear to be too low down there. There you go. So we got some cheekbones here, and down we go there. Add a little structure here. And do we want to add something on the head? Do we want to have some hat or something, right? What do we want to do here? So let's try that. Let's do a little hat there, maybe. Might add a nice shape. Okay. Okay, what else we have here? Clarissa, you drawing along? That's cool. Clarissa, you're asking about the erasers. They are in the drawing box in the mega pack, okay? Oh, Sig, you're asking about the European feed. Yeah, every other week I do brush hour, and in the weeks I'm not doing brush hour, at roughly the same time, I'm doing a show in French on the Adobe Live channel for France with Franck Payan. Or Payen. Never asked him how I pronounce his last name. I should probably learn that. But he usually hosts that with me. All right, so the cool thing about this process is I can do it exactly the same way as I would with my pencils in with paper, you know? And that is, like, I would get something on the page like this, and when things start getting a little busy, right, I can just take an eraser and not erase everything, but just knock it down, right? So that I still get a ghost on the page of what I'm drawing, right? And I can still see all that nice information. But it just takes some of those marks and it makes them go away a little bit so that I can see more clearly. And I'll show you what I mean here. So let's just get this shape feeling a little more resolved here. A little clearer there. All right, so here's our character. Pretty fun. Feeling pretty good about that. Looks like a fun drawing so far. Want to make sure that the head feels round, right? Want to make sure the head feels round. See this? I can just lightly erase over all this, and I can just... I'm just using light pressure with this eraser and clean that up a little bit. This helps to see all my shapes more clearly. Right? There's that shadow there. And this is why I like using this pencil, because I can just knock in that shadow very carefully and softly, as I would with a pencil on paper. Now I can be more deliberate with describing shapes in the nose here, like that. And that's just me using that pencil by holding it a little bit more upright, more perpendicular, so I can use the tip of the pencil to get exactly the line I want. But this pencil is just really good for sketching, like getting the beginning of the drawing where I want. And I could go all the way through to finishing it as well. But I find that sometimes I like to switch to a different pencil that doesn't have any tilt recognition whatsoever when I'm ready to just do sort of like some tighter line work. And the options for those are plentiful. The one I find that does a nice job working in combination with this pencil or another similar kind of a pencil like the Tilterific or something would probably be the Perfect pencil, which you'll also find in the Mega Pack, Perfect pencil. That does a nice job. But you can see I can use this to just go all the way through and start to get these little details worked out quite nicely. And then every now and then I just use the eraser, get a little bit more precise with the edge of something. Like I'll just remove a little bit here or there. But every time I do that, I know that that eraser is going to have that same feel that I want of not being too clean, too sharp, too, for lack of a better word, digital, if you know what I mean, right? It's something I always want to avoid if I'm doing this kind of work. Like I'd love to be able to take this and post it or show it to a client or something like that and say, you know, here's a pencil drawing. What do you think? Not have to say, here is a digital pencil drawing. You know, that's why even have to make that distinction? You know, that's the idea, right? So there you go. So this is me getting picky and getting precise in there and trying to make that face look nice and read, right? So that's starting to come together nicely. Feel pretty good with that right now. What do you all think about that? How's that looking? Are we getting somewhere? You know, I love to see all the evidence of the lines that have been there on the page, and that's why I don't erase everything away entirely. I like to just see where I've been. And I love seeing drawings by other artists that show you how they got from point A to point B. You know, like how did they get to arrive at those final decisions and those final little marks. I love to see that. But look at these really, I'm making like really fine lines now. Same pencil. I'm getting very, very sharp and very precise with this tool, right? And you can do that. It's not something that requires any extra special skill or anything. It's all about just how I hold the pencil. I just tilt it a little bit less parallel to the surface of the tablet, and I've got this really sharp tool that I can draw with. It's really awesome. You like the eyes? Cool, thanks. Hey Tyler, you're a legend as well. Nice of you to say so, but thanks for tuning in and thanks for watching. What is the hotkey to switch from pencil brush to eraser? E. You would hit E to erase and then B to get back to your brush, Clarissa. But the way I'm doing it is with my stylus, I just flip it over and I erase on the back like I would with a regular pencil. I love that about the Wacom pens, and I do desperately wish that Apple would do that for the Apple Pencil. I wish they offer a stylus that would have two functions, one on either end. I think that would just be so cool. And so useful for so many of us who just, you know, that's how you grow up drawing, with a pencil. You flip it over, you erase. You flip it over and you draw. Yeah, but you know, I've actually made that request with some folks in person at Apple. And they said they would take it into consideration. So that's nice. Let's see what happens. I do think it would be great though, and I'm not alone in thinking that, so. Alrighty. Sorry, I'm a little quiet, but you know, I'm trying to draw a hand. Everyone's got to concentrate when they try and draw hands, right? Am I the only one? Can't be. Stupid hands. Why do they have to be so tricky? Yeah, that's good enough for now. Okay. And see, it was so fun to do this texture of the hair just by turning the pencil and using a little shading. And now I can go in and I can be a little bit more precise here and there and say, look, I'm going to show you where some of those shadows are. In the ear there first, and then here behind and in front of this hood here. I can be more precise and just call out some of these shapes, right? So fun. You just do this, you build up the graphite over time, just like with the real stuff. I'm not doing anything differently than I would with paper. It's the same process. It's amazing that you can do this. Technology. I know we complain sometimes, we're like, why can't this do this? Or why can't I do that? Or why can't I? But sometimes you just have to step back for a moment and say, can you believe this is even possible at all? That with plastic on glass, I'm drawing what appears to be something that is created with graphite. I mean, this is insanity. We're all impatient all the time, and we all want everything to, like, we get used to it so fast, we get so spoiled, and we just, I want this now, I want this to change. And then sometimes we really have to just step back and appreciate how insane it is that any of this is possible. Like smudging. Now I can do this. I can just come over here and I can just blend and smudge. Soften all that. Right? Come through and just pass it over there a little bit. Just soften some bits. It's subtle, I know. Can't see much happening, but out here towards the end of the hair, I want to soften that, just smudge it away a little bit. Like that. Ah, it's so fun. It's so cool that this can be done. I can erase, come in, change that shape just a bit. Be a little more precise here. I want to get that ear to be more clear, so I'm gonna, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it's cool that it did. Any more questions? Let's see. I wish Adobe would give us a button to change the feeds. Oh, you mean for the Behance feeds? Sig, if you're talking about adding brushes to a library, can you be more specific about that question so I can understand what it is you're trying to do? One of the limitations of brushes with libraries in Photoshop anyway that I don't like, and I hope we change, is the ability to drag multiple brushes into a library at one time. That to me seems like, of course you should be able to do that, right? So let's make that happen, gang. That's an easy win for everybody. Seems to me. We all want that. All right, let's get this ear looking a little better. So I'm going to define that. There we go. I use, by the way, a hotkey for smudging. I use the S key. Very useful. Anybody who's interested in setting that up for themselves, all you have to do is go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and then go ahead and assign the S key to the smudge tool. And shortcuts. And when you get there, you go over here to where it says Tools, and you scroll on down to the smudge tool. Right there, S. That way I can just hit S anytime I want to smudge. The smudge tool I'm using today for this is in the drawing box. If you open up the drawing box in the mega pack, you'll see that the first few tools are smudge tools. Very convenient. All right, so you can see this is coming together, right? It's a pencil drawing in Photoshop. Well, wonders never cease. And we haven't even though I mentioned that we haven't even used any other tools up until this point. Any other brushes, I should say. We did use the smudge tool, didn't we? But yeah, you could stick with just one tool all the way through. But if you remember from last time around, 2 weeks ago in our episode, we were playing with Graphite, and there are all kinds of tools available to you, these different Graphite tools that you could combine and use in a drawing like this. And find them and another thing I find myself doing when I draw with pencils in Photoshop is I don't undo as much. Instead, I just erase, which is, I guess, you know, how I would work with real pencils. It's an interesting phenomenon. See, like right here, I just go, I want to erase that away. I just erase it. That's what winds up happening. So we didn't get around too much to what's happening down here, but you know, now I can do this. I can lighten it all up with my eraser. Right? I can still see everything that's there. That's what a ghost is. These nice little ghosts down here. Right? Just erase that away. I could always make my eraser really, really big. Cover more territory. That's the beautiful thing about being able to resize your brushes so quickly. I do that with the bracket keys. Same as with brushes. If you want to make something bigger, you just use the bracket keys. But yeah, so here we are. We're down here now. We've got some details to iron out. And you don't have to make, this is the thing I love about looking at pencil drawings too. People don't resolve everything, right? Sometimes they just suggest something and they leave it alone. Some bits are more finished than others. What's the focal point? Well, I want people to look here. I want them to look at this person's face, right? So that's where I put all my energy into refining the drawing and trying to make it look good and have a bit more detail and a bit more action there, you know, that kind of stuff. That's where I want people to look. But this other stuff now I could do like this. I could just sort of do a little outline. Be a little tighter with that. It's the beautiful thing about having that underdrawing there, that first thing we did where we were just sort of figuring it out. There's those leggings, right? And for those, I could add like some tone if I want. Those could even be like almost solid, a solid tone even, and just be a shape. You know, that might be a cool style decision you make. Who knows? And then we have a little space for the leg there, and then all of a sudden we are met with the boots. Remember, these boots and the leggings and the shorts and everything, they're wrapping around something. And that something is foreshortened. So we need to make these lines do that. They can't be straight lines. They have to be curved lines that wrap around the thing. right? I know brush hour is not normally the place I talk about that kind of stuff, but keep that in mind. It's important. And then we do this. We add our base to that boot, and then why not just add a nice little sole to the boot, right? And that could have more detail if you want it to later, but I had the very good fortune of getting married in and then revisiting 10 years later for our anniversary, Florence, Italy, where if you're like me, as into just beautiful human anatomy sculpture, okay, and paintings and all that, but the sculpture in the public spaces there, you just can't escape beautiful, incredible sculptures of the body. And what you see there is just this appreciation for, but also amplification of these curvilinear passages in the body. And so I'm always trying with like legs and things to get all these little bumpy bits and these rhythms and get those to look like what I observed over there, because it's just so gorgeous to see those shapes and to try and reproduce those. It's what makes drawings and sculpture better than, or more interesting than, or more exciting, or more beautiful than what we see in the real world, right? Why is it so satisfying to look at a Michelangelo, I should say, masterpiece like the David? Well, it's because, no one's body really looks like that, right? But we still recognize it as human. And it's just taking all that stuff that already exists and just pulling out certain bits to emphasize and play up and all that. So gang, I think I've got to call it quits here for now. But wasn't this fun? This is just me like having an opportunity to draw with all of you with pencil in Photoshop. Which again, like I said earlier, it's just an amazing thing that this is even possible, that we can do this, that we can draw so realistically and so in such a satisfying way in a digital environment. What a crazy time we live in. And you know what makes this possible? In addition to, of course, the great hardware, the brushes. So go and get brushes and play with brushes and learn more about brushes and experiment and find those brushes that feel good for you and that suit your style. And that's what this show is really all about. Is I want people to get that same excitement that I have for all the possibilities that are out there when you use tools like this, because you can really have a lot of fun and do some neat stuff. What can I say? All right. Any last little questions? This is a great brush. You're welcome. Where has the hour gone? Yeah, I know. It goes fast. But we got a lot done, and we did something that I hope was educational, informative. And there you go. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining me, and I hope that you all have a nice rest of your day. And I have a Friday masterclass where I continue my winter monster character and I'll be painting it some more. So I hope you'll tune in for that, 4 p.m. Eastern this Friday on Adobe Live. In the meantime, stay tuned for what's next. Have a great time and be kind to one another, please. And I will say ciao for now.